Hello children, today I've got a story called Jesus and the Stormy Sea. Everyone had heard the story of how Jesus fed a multitude of people on 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And what happened was this. Jesus and his disciples had gone to a place by the sea, a lonely desert place where there were no houses or shops. But as always, people from far and wide had heard him, and they came to be with them. He was going to be there and had followed him just so that they could listen to him and be healed of their sicknesses. And whoever spoke to Jesus was answered by him, and whoever was sick was made well again by him. And so the day went on until the early evening, when the disciples said to Jesus, "Master, should we send the people right away now? It's getting late and they're hungry, and there are no shops or any place here where they can buy food. We ourselves have no food, at least nothing but 5 small loaves and 2 fishes, and that won't go very far." But Jesus said, "No, don't send them away yet. I shall feed these people first. Bring me the food you have." So they brought the 5 loaves and 2 fishes to him, and Jesus blessed the food and broke it up and said, "Now feed these people." And the disciples never quite knew how it happened, but out of that small amount of food, all those hundreds of people had enough to eat. Now this was of course a very great miracle, coming at the end of an exciting day. But a little later on, another very wonderful thing happened. Happy, no longer hungry, but well fed, the people had at last gone away, and Jesus and his disciples were alone by the sea. Just a little way out was their boat, and Jesus said, "Look, I want you all to go to the boat and sail to that shore you can see over there, because that is where we're going to go tomorrow. I shall come on a little later. Just now I want to be alone for a short time, so I am going up into the mountains." This was a thing Jesus often did. He would slip away to a quiet and lonely place to pray and rest and become fresh again to help more people. So the disciples saw nothing strange in this and did as they were told. They went into their boat and began to get ready to sail away, and presently the boat was ready and they set sail. Meanwhile, Jesus went quietly away up into the mountains, where everything was still and quiet, and settled down to pray. And time went by, and it grew darker and darker. And presently the weather grew rough and stormy, and out on the sea, where the disciples were in their boat, a strong wind rose, and big waves began to toss the boat about, so that they did not get very far. And here is the boat. See the boat? Being tossed on the stormy waves. And they were still on the water in the middle of the night, so they hadn't even landed where Jesus had told them to go to. And in the midst of the storm, with its tossing about, its wind and its great big waves, someone happened to look towards the shore they had left and saw a sight which at first frightened them terribly. They saw a figure walking towards their boat across the rough sea. Of course they were frightened. They called out to one another to come and look. They cried out that they did not believe it. And yet it was actually true. Across those stormy waves, someone was walking towards them, actually walking on the water. "It isn't possible," they cried. "No human being can do such a thing. It must be a spirit. Oh, help us! Our master is not with us, and we will all be drowned." And then the person walking towards them spoke, and they knew the voice. "Be of good cheer, it is I. Be not afraid." For a moment they were silent. It was the voice of their master, Jesus. But was it really he? Or was it a wicked spirit trying to deceive them by speaking in their master's voice? They had never seen him walk across water before. They had never thought that such a thing could be done. So just at first they did not believe that it was Jesus, and then Peter spoke in a rather shaky voice and called back, "Lord, if it is really you, then tell me to come to you and make me walk across the water." For like the others, Peter was afraid but wanted to be brave, and he wanted his master to know that he was brave. Jesus, understanding all these things, laughed gently. "Why, of course, Peter," he said. "Come along, walk towards me." And Peter looked at those high, angry waves and wished just a little bit that he hadn't been quite so brave. But the figure was coming closer. All his companions were huddled around him, silently waiting to see what would happen. And if the figure were indeed an evil spirit, then they would all be drowned in any case. But if it were the Lord, then he had commanded Peter to walk to him, and Peter always obeyed his commands. Peter knew that he had to go. He clambered out of the boat and stepped onto the water. And what happened then? Did he walk on the surface of the water? No, alas, he began to sink, and amid such big rough waves there was not much chance for Peter. He cried out in fear as he sank, "Lord, save me!" And here he is. Attempting to walk on the water, but he was just too frightened. You know why? Because he didn't believe that he could do it. And there's the Lord, and he's yelling out to him, "Please save me, please save me." Then just as he was going down, Jesus came up to him and caught his hand and said, "Peter, you did not believe in me, did you? You have so little faith, Peter. Why did you doubt me?" And suddenly Peter found that he was not sinking into the water. He was not going to drown. His master was holding his hand, and he was safe. They stepped into the boat, and as they did so, the storm died down. The terrible wind stopped blowing, and the great rough waves became gentle little ones. All was calm and quiet again. And Jesus and Peter stood there, unharmed and safe, amongst the rest of the disciples. And the people in that boat who had seen Jesus walk across a stormy sea, and had seen him lift Peter when he was sinking into the waves, cried out in great awe, "Now we know, Lord, that you are truly the Son of God." Isn't that a beautiful story? I always love this story. Absolutely. Jesus and the stormy sea. Absolutely beautiful.